Well, hello there, everybody. We are so glad that you have joined us for our Gear Up for Spring 2023 registration webinar. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Grad Dean here in the Jindal School of Management at UT Dallas, and we are so excited about all of you joining us next spring. And we want you to be ready when the semester starts and in the classes that you want to be enrolled in. So this entire webinar is really devoted to helping you understand how you enroll in classes for the spring 2023 semester. Now, I'm going to tell you, you don't need to take copious notes because we will provide a lot of detail. We are going to send you both the deck from this presentation along with the link to a recording of this presentation, so you'll be able to go back and review it at your convenience. What we really want you to do is just to listen closely to what we're talking about so that you can really internalize it, and it'll just make the whole process a lot easier. We have an entourage of people here that are joining us today. We've got Norma Rodriguez in the background who's making all the magic happen. She will handle all the questions that come in at the end. We have Corina Cantua. She's the Director of Advising Operation. She's going to talk about all of the mechanics associated with registering for classes. And then we've got a wonderful Assistant Director for Graduate Advising behind the scenes as well, who's going to be tackling and help to answer questions that'll show up in the chat. So without further ado, let's get this conversation underway so that you have all of the answers that you need to be able to register for your spring classes when that opportunity presents itself. So Corina, why don't you take the show away?
Sure thing. Thank you, Dr. Powell. Welcome, everyone. I'm glad you are with us as well. So we're just going to cover some items that are going to be important for registration, not only for this first semester, but also for all your continuing semesters. So once you learn it once you get comfortable with it once, you don't have to relearn it. It's going to be the same process. So we're going to touch on those important items that we recommend that you become familiar with in preparation for registration. And with that, we'll start with the first one, which is on the next slide, which is the academic calendar. So on the academic calendar, every semester is going to be published. It's going to be online, and you're always going to see 2 pages. Page 1 is going to be academic deadlines, like the ones that you see there. You'll see that we have an example of page 1 of the spring 23 semester, which includes the highlights, which is a full term session for the first day of class, January 17th. We highlighted the last day of regular registration, which is January 12th, Census Day, February 1st. So there's a lot of deadlines that are always going to be posted each semester. So have this handy, print it out, bookmark it, whatever you need to do to make sure that you're aware of these deadlines. There's a particular deadline on here that, or date, I guess, is really not a deadline, is a date that we didn't highlight, but I do want to mention it, and is within the web registration section, sort of like the second part on the left-hand side, and it's called Schedule Planner Available. That's Monday, October 24th. So that's next Monday. So 2 things are going to happen on that day. 1, the spring 23 schedule is going to go live. That's where you're going to be able to see what classes are available, the days and times that they're going to be scheduled. So you can start getting an idea of what class options you have to register in for spring. The second thing that's going to happen on that day is that you're going to get assigned an enrollment date and time. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a few slides, so I'll hold on to that, but those 2 things will happen next Monday. As it pertains to the academic calendar, the other thing is that it does have 2 pages. Page 2 is not shown here, but page 2 is going to contain payment deadlines. So you want to make sure that you take a look at that and also know not only when you register in classes, but by when you have to pay so that you don't get dropped from those courses. All right, so every semester, again, it's available. There's a link on there. Make sure that you tag it. Make sure that you know how to get to it. All right, so now let's go to the next slide. So as you prepare for registration, the other thing that you need to know is what classes are you going to take, right? So in your particular programs, the requirements are going to be different. So we recommend that you start going to the catalog. So catalog.utdallas.edu, go to 2022, which would be the catalog that you would be under as an incoming student, and then go to your program. Look at the courses that are required there. That's where you're going to track, this are the courses that you have to take, and where you're going to start getting an idea of what courses you probably need to take in your first semester. Dr. Powell is going to mention some webinars later in this session to invite you to. They're going to have more program-specific information, but they're also going to touch base on the catalog. Everything is going to come from the catalog. One important thing to note from the catalog is when you look at your program requirements, MAS 6102 Professional Development, you'll see it listed as a program prerequisite. So you need to make sure that you do enroll in that class. We're going to send you some emails regarding that as well. There may be a potential waiver for MAS 6102, so that's something that you could look at as well. All this information is on the website, so like Dr. Monica Powell said, do not worry too much about keeping track, but just kind of keep in mind MAS 6102 and perhaps a potential waiver for that course. Now, the other thing, when you look in the catalog, the other thing you're going to see is that second item that's on the screen is about the GPA. So as a graduate student, you are going to be required to have a core GPA of 3.0 as well as an overall GPA of 3.0. So as you start taking classes, you also need to make sure that when you choose what classes to take together, you keep in mind how much work that's going to be for you. If you have a full-time job, that also needs to be taken into consideration because you have to do well in these classes. It doesn't mean that you have to have a grade of B or better in everything, but it does mean that if you get a grade of C in a class, you have to get a grade of A in something else to be able to balance that out. Okay, so keep in mind 3.0 GPA is what you're going to aim for. The third item on this slide is the degree plan. So in your first semester, we're going to put together a degree plan once you sign up for your classes, once we have some information to put on the degree plan. And all the degree plan is basically the courses that are spelled out in the catalog put into an Excel spreadsheet that allows you to track your progress in the program. It allows you to put, okay, I finished this one, I'm done with this one, I still need these 5 more classes. So it just allows you to know how close you're getting to graduation. That's basically all the degree plan does. We'd also include some GPA information in the degree plan so that it also kind of gives you an idea if there's any concern about the GPA, how things are going in relation to that. And then the last recommendation is always going to be, now that you're a current student, we are going to be communicating with you via emails. We're going to send you information via emails. Not only our office, but also your program is going to send you this. And they're going to invite you to things like a webinar, info sessions, events that are going to be important for you to attend. So make sure that you're paying attention to that you are ready to attend that, because that's going to provide you a lot of supplemental information along to what you found in the catalog. All right, so we can go to the next slide. Okay, so let's say you're aware of the deadlines on the academic calendar, you're aware of what kind of classes you want to register in. How do you actually go in and register in your classes? I'm not going to go through step by step, very detailed. We have a lot of videos, we have a lot of information on the website that I'm going to direct you to, that's going to be very specific that you can look at, and it's going to explain everything for you. But I do want to kind of touch base on the big things that you need to keep in mind. One is that as a current student, you're going to be using the same system that you use when you were an applicant. So that's logging into Galaxy, and it's going to use the same net ID and password that you used when you were an applicant. If you encounter any technical issues when you're trying to log into the system, make sure you reach out to the OIT help desk. They would be the ones to help you troubleshoot any login issues. But it's going to be the same. It's going to feel the same. I'm going to show you some what the tiles look like within that view, but it's going to be very familiar to you, and that's on purpose. You know, we want you to, now that you were comfortable with the applicant center, you just kind of have to shift a little bit and just see new information, but the same type of view. So let's take a look at that view actually. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is what the Student Center looks like. When you log into Galaxy with your net ID and password, it may default to your applicant center. Make sure that just hover over that applicant center label and you should see a drop-down option to change it to UTD Student Center. The UTD Student Center is where you want to be to see those tiles of information that are now for you as a current student. So make sure that you can see this view and that you see UTD Student Center there at the top so that you can see these specific tiles. Now, there's a lot of tiles on there. There's a lot of information. I'm not going to cover all of them, but I invite you to go ahead and just click through them. You know, it doesn't hurt anything. Just click on it, see what type of information you see on each of them. Just be familiar with where they are so that in case you need it, you can always jump back in there and say, oh yeah, I remember seeing it under this tile. You can jump right in there and take a look at it. All right. Now, I do want to mention two specific tiles because they are particularly important in the registration process. So let's look at tile number 1, which is on the next slide. And this is the tasks tile. So basically, what the tasks tile contains anything that you have to do, any assigned item or any hold that you have to take care of is always going to be included in this tasks tile. Now, an example of that is probably something that you see on there that tells you that you have to touch base with an advisor before you can start registration. So that's a typical hold for new students. What we're going to do to make things easier for you to register in your first semester is we're actually going to go into the system and go ahead and remove that hold for you. This is the information we're covering in this session is essentially what we would be sharing with you as part of that requirement of that hold. So that allows us to go ahead and clear that hold for you. So you're going to see that go away. If you have anything else, it may be something like your official documents. So you applied to UTD with using unofficial documents, most likely. Some of you may have sent in already your official documents. But if you did it with unofficial documents, we do need you now that you're going to be a current student, we need you to go ahead and submit your official documents, your transcripts. We do need to have them on file. It's not going to prevent the registration because that hold is really not going to impact you until closer to the start of the spring semester. But it is going to impact the fact that you can remain enrolled in your classes in your first semester. So if you have not sent us official documents just yet, I would make that one of the items that you're taking care of now in preparation for the spring semester. So you can just check that off your list. You don't have to be worried about sending official transcripts to us because you already took care of it. And that hold that potentially could show up on your account will not because you already took care of it. So those are kind of typical holds. As you become a current student and you start interacting with other departments, I'll give you a very quick example of if you check out a book from the library, you haven't returned it, you may have a hold for that, right? There may be a library fine hold. So things like that may surface through in your system based on what you are doing. And so ahead of any registration, not just this registration, make sure that you're taking a look at this task tile to make sure you have no holds. Because if you do have a hold, that may prevent you from being able to register, then that delays it. You may not get the class that you want, etc. So make sure that you keep in mind tracking where you are on any pending tasks that you have. All right, so now let's look at the second tile that we want to talk about, which is manage my classes. So this is the tile where a lot of your registration is going to happen. You'll see a lot of the options here are related to schedule, registration, add, swap, drop, classes, class search. So this is the tile that when you are planning for registration and you're ready to register, this is where you want to be. If you click on this, you'll see all those options and you're going to be able to take care of all of those things. Now, just to reiterate, the steps for registration are not going to come to you. You haven't done this at UTD probably before. So we want to make sure that you are comfortable doing it. So that's why we've created small videos on our advising page. If you go to the School of Management advising page, go to the registration tab and take a look at that information. You will see that a lot of what I'm touching base on right now is going to match up the information that we have on the page. But on our page, we have a lot more details, a lot more step-by-step instructions, and a lot more videos that walk you through the process. So please make sure that you go ahead and take a look at that information to be comfortable with taking care of your registration. There's one thing that I do want to touch on this tile, which is the enrollment appointment. So you'll see this, there's a bullet point on here that's view enrollment appointment. So what that is what I mentioned earlier. So on Monday, the 24th, The schedule is going to go live, but then you're also going to be assigned an enrollment date and time. Even though the label on here says appointment, it is actually not an appointment. You do not have to meet with somebody at that day and time. It's just the day and time that's assigned to you that indicates the moment that you can actually start enrolling in classes. So on that day and at that time, from that point forward until the end of registration, you're going to actually be able to enroll in your courses. It's not going to be next week. It's probably not going to be the first week of November. It's going to be somewhere around mid-November. That date is going to be somewhere around mid-November. So next Monday, log into the system, see what date that is, and you know that based on that date, you can then enroll in classes. Now, it does not mean that you wait until that day and time to actually start planning. You need to start planning now. Once the schedule goes live, once you get some additional information from the programs through the webinars that you will be invited to, once you get that type of information, you can start planning your courses so that once you get to your enrollment date and time, then you just log in and enroll, right? You don't have to start planning. There's no delay at that point because you already did all of your proactive work, proactive planning to be ready to register, okay? All right, so those are the main things that are related to registration. Again, each semester, not just this first semester. This first semester is just going to be a learning experience. And then once you got it, you're going to do that again anytime you want to register. So before we jump to some webinar information that Dr. Powell is going to share with us, I do have some final thoughts on the next slide. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the information that we're going to share with you is going to come to you via email. That's the easiest way that we can get information to you with updates, any issues that our office finds, we're going to email you. But we're going to use your UTD email. So you have to make sure if you haven't started that you're routinely checking your UTD email. And also you have to make sure that you reply to us using your UTD email. That is the only way that it allows us to do any action. So if you, let's say, you're struggling with an issue and you need us to look up the information and provide you details back, we cannot send that to a non-UTD account. We cannot send that to your Gmail. It has to be UTD email. So make sure that you're checking that and that you're communicating with us using that. And then the other thing is, so as a student at UTD, you have two ID numbers. The first one is your UTD ID. You probably saw it on your admission letter. It starts with a 20. So that is a number that identifies you as a student, but is not something that you need to include in any emails that you send us. That's something that you should keep to yourself. Don't share with people. Kind of treat it a little bit like your social security number. It's something just for you to know. It is going to be required to be used when you're activating your account, things like that, but it's just for you to know. When you email us, if you do want to identify yourself, then go ahead and use your net ID. The net ID is the one that has the letters followed by those numbers, and it's the same thing that you use to log into Galaxy, and you'll find out it's going to be the same thing you use to log into probably any software at UTD, a computer at UTD. So the net ID is going to be what you use on a daily basis. So that you can share with us. If you want to send us an email, you want to make sure that we can find you, especially if you change, your name in the system may be a little different from what name you use day to day. Especially in that scenario, we probably would benefit from you including your net ID, not your UTD ID, but your net ID, which is going to make it easier for us to locate you in the system. All right, so don't share UTD ID. You're welcome to share net ID to help us identify you. All right, and then as I mentioned earlier, so we do have this registration page. There's a link on this slide for that, but it's basically on the School of Management page, advising registration. Go through all those steps. It touches on everything that I talked about today in a lot more detail so that you can kind of feel much more comfortable about preparing for your first day of registration for your first semester at UTD. All right. Okay, so with that, I'm going to pass it back to Dr. Powell so she can kind of talk about the webinars and add any additional information she would like to share.
Corina, thank you. That is a lot of complex and tedious information. But again, we're going to send you a copy of this deck. We're also going to send you a link to the recording and you'll be able to refer back to it. So, students often ask us, well, how is it that I know what to register for in the first semester? And as Corina said, going and looking at that catalog is important because the entire degree program is outlined in the catalog. It's kind of the contract for your enrollment. And so that's a great place to kind of tiptoe into what is to be expected in the course, because some courses are prerequisites for other courses. You want to make sure that you do this in the order that you're supposed to. So keep that in mind. But where do you go if you want really more information or you want to have a venue to ask questions? Well, what you see on the screen is that. For each of our degree programs, depending upon the size of the program, they will either have an email that you can send specific questions to, and they'll do one-off live virtual Teams kinds of meetings, or they'll do in-office meetings, or they'll chat with you on the phone. Those are things like the MS in Accounting program, Energy Management, Innovation and Entrepreneurship, and the International Management Studies program. The rest of those degree programs, which are master's degrees, all of those have designated webinar so that you can sign up to attend. So you can reach out to the email address that we have on the far right side and get signed up for that, because this is a time when the program director and the program support folks are going to go over everything. They're going to talk about the degree program. They're going to talk about core versus electives. They're going to talk about the different concentrations or tracks. They'll answer questions about, what if I do this? What kind of job could I have when I'm done? They'll answer all of those specific and unique questions that are related to their degree program. They're the experts. They know their degree programs, their courses, their faculty better than anybody. So that is where you want to go. You want to attend one of these webinars or reach out to the email address if it says contact program to have that assessment of what you should take in your first semester, because they are the prime go-to place. Your program director is somebody that you want to know. So if you run into any difficulties in the program and you need to seek advice, they're your go-to people. If you have a question about a career outcome, about what you think you might do, should I take this concentration versus that one, they're going to be able to kind of help you out. So please make a note of what you see on the screen. Now, you may not remember those contact email addresses. We have other ways for you to get answers to questions too. So I'll have Norma. Thank you, Norma. You can see you can always email JSOM Advising. Now that is Corina's team. Corina is the director of our advising operation. She has an assistant director for graduate advising, which is Angela Howard. And her team are the ones that will answer questions that come to JSOM Advising. Now, remember, the advising office is the group that helps you with the mechanics of obtaining your degree. They help you with registration. They help you with holds. They help you with graduation applications. They help you if you run into a situation where you might find yourself on probation. They are the ones that can help you with the actual mechanics of managing your degree. In terms of the specifics of your degree, like core classes and concentrations and this class versus that class, that's your program support people that are holding those webinars for you. You can also email jendal@utdallas.edu, or you can send a question to the question desk, and you'll see that email address right there on your screen as well. Because we are really very, very centered on being able to answer students and their questions. That's one of the, I think, the best characteristics of the Jendal School is that our faculty and our staff are so centered on supporting the individual success of every student. But what does that mean for you? That means that you have to slow down a little bit as a graduate student. If you're fully employed and working on a degree, or if you're going to school full time, you got a big load on your plate. So that means you have to slow yourself down. You have to be willing to read critical information that we send you. It will save you a lot of agony if you just make a point of reading the emails that go out, because that's important information. The second thing that I would tell everyone is there's probably not a question that you can ask or email us that the answer isn't already on our website. So take just a few minutes to go to the program website. You're going to find everything about the curriculum, everything about the requirements, everything about the design, everything about internships, all on that program website. or go to the advising website. They have these wonderful little videos that answer little simple questions in 20 seconds, and you have your answer. So just spend a little bit of time before you pop off 20 emails to have us answer the same question. It'll save you the frustration. And, graduate school is hard. If it was easy, we wouldn't have an admissions process and deny people admission. You guys have been selected to be here. And so we know that you are talented and you are smart, and we want you guys to be successful. But we also don't want you to have a lot of anxiety about getting answers to important questions, because we know what that means to balance a full-time job, being in graduate school, maybe young kids, babies, spouses, partners, dogs, whatever it is that you have in your life that makes your life complex. Now, it is always important that we answer your questions. Students are first and foremost the most important people that we serve. We want to make sure that we're addressing your questions. So I have no doubt, Norma, behind the scenes, we have some questions. So between all of us, we're going to answer these great questions and try to get as many answered as we can in the time we have allocated.
We have some great questions, and I do want to let everybody know that I did go ahead and post that link to the advising registration page that has those really helpful videos and information for people to watch, so they can go ahead and see that posted. Our first question has to do with the MAS 6102 course, and this person asks, when does the MAS 6102 waiver need to be submitted? ASAP, before the first semester, during the first semester? That is the question.
ASAP, right now. You want to send that in and follow the process for that waiver, because if you're supposed to, because the rules in the catalog say that you should complete that in your first 12 hours. Well, that's your first semester. So you want to send in that waiver, get that considered, so that you can, if you're eligible to be waived, you can be waived out of it.
And I also did post a link to where that waiver form is posted on the advising website, so they can also look there. Our next question has to do with that enrollment hold that Corina was talking about, the cannot register online, you need to meet with an advisor. And this person asks, do we need to send an email to get that hold removed for enrollment? This person has it on there, and they're wondering if it'll automatically be taken off or if they have to request it.
Corina, that one's yours.
All right. Yeah, we will actually automatically take care of it. You don't have to email us. Now that we're gearing up to start the registration time for the spring semester, we're going to go in there and we're going to clear anybody who is active. So I guess make sure that you have accepted your admission to come to UTD so that you get what's called a matriculation. What that is just an active status that allows you to register, because that's how we're going to pinpoint students that we're going to release that hold for. So you'll still see it on there. It'll take us about a week or so to get that removed. So just don't panic if you still see it on there. You will not be able to register anytime within the next 2 weeks, so it's not going to affect anything. So don't worry about emailing us. We'll make sure we take care of it.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and put Dr. Powell back on the screen. Our next question is from a double degree student. This person is a double degree MBA and MS student for spring 2023. And they are wondering which program specific webinar that they should attend, the MBA or the MS program specific webinar.
Wow, that's a great question. We have a lot of students who do the double degree, either double MS degrees or the double MS MBA. So when you're in that boat doing the MS MBA, it is always good to start with the MS first. Because the reality is, if you're doing 2 degrees, you need to graduate with those 2 degrees in the same semester. So you want to hold off on 1 course each until the end so that you get those courses at the same time. You never, ever, 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 ever want to finish the MBA before the MS, because that will unravel the benefit of sharing courses from 1 degree to the next. So if you are an MS MBA student, you should attend the MS webinar and get enrolled in those courses first. Then sometime during your first semester, you should reach out to the MBA programs office or go by and chat with them or attend one of their webinars so that you understand precisely how you're laying out this curriculum as you move through it, so that you can indeed be able to graduate with fewer hours combined than you would if you'd done the degrees separate. But that means you need a plan. So, sometime in April, late March, get with the MBA office, kind of think about how you need to lay out the MBA curriculum. They manage the advising process on the MBA side. So you're really going to want to do that shortly after your spring semester starts.
Our next, and I did also put the email address for the MBA programs office in the chat. It is mba@utdallas.edu. Our next question has to do with the minimum and maximum enrollment. What are the minimum number of classes that I can take in a semester? What's the maximum? And what does our average student take if they're a working professional versus not working?
Oh, wow. That is such a power-loaded question. So full-time status for a graduate student is 9 credit hours. If you are working full-time, do not enroll in 9 credit hours. Most of our fully employed students are taking 1 or 2 classes in a semester. Now, remember, you have 72 months to complete the degree. That's 6 years. That means any courses that you would have transferred in. So let's say you took a course in 2020 that you're transferring in. That means your 6-year window starts in spring of 2020. So you just need to be mindful of how you fit in all of your coursework in that 72-month window. So most of our fully employed people take 2 3-credit-hour classes as they are fully employed. Sometimes if you are coming into a STEM-based program like analytics program and you're not coming from a quantitative background, sometimes they'll start, a fully employed person will start a little bit slower and not try to take 2 quantitatively demanding classes in the first semester when that really isn't their forte. So the maximum you can take in a semester is 18, but you would be crazy and not likely approved to do so. So I would stick to 9 if you're a full-time student, 9 or 12 if you're a full-time student, and if you are a part-time student working full-time, I would not take more than 6.
So this question is somewhat related to that, and they use the wrong terminology, but I'm going to ask it as they did, and then we can say what it's called. This person said, can we fill out a waiver to take more than 9 credit hours? And so I think they just want permission to take more than 9 credit hours.
So you can literally enroll in up to 13, right, Corina? You can enroll in up to 13, but there is a moment in time where that comes off and you're literally allowed to roll in up to 18, but you don't want to do that. So there's no reason you couldn't enroll in 4 classes right now. If you wanted to take 12 credit hours, you could enroll in that. And then after that, it's usually the Friday before classes start or the day before classes start, that hold to not let you enroll in more than 13 comes off, and you literally could. But if you're going to take more hours than that, you're going to need our approval. So you need to email JSOM Advising and say, I want to take 5 classes, because that needs to go through an approval process.
Yeah, so I'll add, Norma, if I can. So if you go to our advising page, you'll find the registration, and then Norma pointed out the forms that leads you to the MAS 6102 waiver. We also have a section called JSOM Policies. So each semester you can go to that page and look at the registration credit hour limit. And on there, you'll see the exact date of when, if you wanted to do more than the 13 credit hours, you could. As Dr. Powell said, I don't know if you want to do that, but the date is on there if you want to take a look at when that restriction will be lifted for students who add more than that.
And I did go ahead and post the link to the JSOM policies page. There's 2 buttons on top, undergraduate policies, graduate policies. You'll go ahead and click on graduate policies to get to that section. So Dr. Powell, this next question has to do with MAS 6102 and being waived in a different class, actually. So I've already been waived for MAS 6102 and another class specific to my degree. They have emails confirmation for this, but is there somewhere else that they can see that those have been waived to kind of just verify?
Gosh, I'm gonna answer no. You can't like physically see that, but your email confirmations that show you were waived. I mean, generally, if you're waived from a course, that's been approved by the academic. I mean, it's been approved by the academic area, which means that you're having to take something else in lieu of whatever it was you got waived out of.
And I believe it will be denoted on the degree plan that's made their first semester, will it? Or
is that correct, Corina? It will be noted there.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We will have it there.
And you will find those degree plans in what we call e-learning. That is where they will eventually become populated. So you would see it on that degree plan, but not in another academic record. You won't see it on a transcript.
So this next question is also about being waived from the class. If they waive a class, and I was hoping that you could talk about it two ways, if they're waived from MAS 6102 and if they're waived from a class specific to their degree. So if they're waived from a class, does that mean that the requirement is fulfilled, or do I need to take a higher level course or another course to fulfill that requirement so that they can complete those hours?
Smart question.
It's a great question.
Yeah, MAS 6102 is a program prerequisite. If you have been waived from it, you don't replace it. You just simply don't take it. Our MS degree programs are 36 credit hours. If you've been waived from a 3 credit hour core class, which would typically be the case if in this situation, then yes, you are taking a higher level class to replace that course.
Perfect. So this next question goes back to the October 24th date of when the schedule planner will be available and enrollment appointments will be available. Will the hold be taken off on October 24th when classes go live or before? And is there a time frame when the hold is taken off?
Corina?
So I'm assuming we're referring to the cannot register online hold?
I believe so,
Yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
So the hold is actually going to still be there probably next Monday, because it's going to take us about more than a week to get it released from all the students' accounts. So it's going to be longer than that, but that's okay, right? Because your registration does not actually start until your enrollment date. And your enrollment date is not anytime next week. It's going to be sometime in mid-November. So on Monday, you can see that the schedule goes live, and then you can see your enrollment date. Before your enrollment date is when the hold is going to be removed. So we were still going to do it in time so that you don't get delayed from actually registering, but it's not going to happen next week since you're not actually being able to register next week.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'll bring Dr. Powell back to the screen. Our next question goes back to these program-specific webinars. This person asked, how do they choose which track or concentration they should do for their MS? And that's where we'll want to encourage them to attend the program-specific webinars. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. You'll notice that many of our MS programs have either tracks or concentrations, and those are really important things that you need to look at and you need to study. So one of the things that I tell students all the time is to think about what you want to do when you're done with your degree. What kind of job do you want to have in that particular content area that you're getting the degree in? Spend some time between now and the time classes start on the 17th of January. Go out and look at position descriptions. Look at what they are requiring somebody to know and to have as a skill set. And then go out on glassdoor.com and read about people that are in those jobs. Or you can go out to LinkedIn and connect with somebody who might share with you a day in the life of what it's like to do that job. So concentrations help you become qualified for very specific positions. So when you go to one of these webinars and the program director and program support people are there, then ask the question, say, tell me a little bit about the differences in the kind of job that I would get if I had this concentration versus that concentration. And they can give you some examples of what those jobs are. But you should take it upon yourself to also educate yourself. And the great way to do that is go out and look at open job descriptions and see what they're looking for. You know, there's a data science or a data analytics track in our ITM program. Well, what kind of job is that? What kind of data analytics job is looking for an ITM person who also has specific data analytics skill set? So you want to begin with the end in mind. Look at the jobs that you want to hold look at what they require, look at the skills that they're looking for, and then pick the concentration that makes you the best candidate for that particular position.
So this next question has to do with the person who asked about being waived from a class specific to their degree plan. And we mentioned taking, considering a higher level class because they need to meet the credit hours. What classes are considered the higher level classes that we can sign up for in place of the program class that was waived? Is there a specific time that we would enroll in these higher level classes, or who can they talk to about which one would fit?
So their program director would be the best person to have that conversation with during that webinar. You know, generally, it is the case that the courses that students might be waived out of tend to be core classes, like a core finance class. And so an elective is generally a higher level, finance class, because they probably all require as a prerequisite that core Fin 6301. So that, I mean, generally electives are the higher level, and you can see that by looking at the program webpage. So, you know, part of it is if you've been waived out of Finance 6301, then look at the finance electives that are being offered in spring. And it's probably going to be a-okay that you take one of those. If you go into Coursebook, and you can get to Coursebook by going to the main UT Dallas webpage, clicking on resources, and then choose Coursebook. You can go in and put Fin 6377 into Coursebook. You can read the course description, you can look at a prior syllabi that was used, and you can see if you might have an interest in pursuing that class.
Our next question is one that I have not been asked before, so I'm not sure how to answer it. Can I register for classes through my phone? Their laptop is being fixed, and I don't know if you can register on a mobile device.
You know,
Corina?
it's quite shocking to me what it is that students can do on their phone. You know, we've had students take a whole online class on their phone. I would never do that. I want a bigger screen where I can see things. But I mean, we've had people go through a whole semester and do everything on their phone. So yes, you can do this on your phone, although I think you're crazy. Or maybe you just are young and have all these great youthful eyes. But yes, you can do it on your phone.
I think this person would probably prefer to do it on their laptop, but it's getting repaired.
Yeah, I'm sure. I just think it's amazing. I mean, you shop, you pay bills, you buy your groceries, you arrange your dog vet appointment, you go and take your, your core class. I mean, it's shocking. I mean, people must die if they lose these devices.
So speaking about, you mentioned an online class in your response right now. Can you tell our attendees what type of class formats that we offer, face-to-face, online, synchronous, asynchronous?
Sure, I'm glad to. So we offer generally, three different course modalities. Don't you love that word, modalities? Just sounds, I don't know, medical almost. So we have face-to-face classes, which are obvious. You're sitting in a room on a date and time with a professor and your classmates. We offer what are called asynchronous classes. Those are fully online classes where you don't meet on a certain date at time. You're not all together online together. You're taking it, but they have a schedule. It's not like self-study and you can wait to the end of the semester and try to catch up. There are assignments due throughout, but it's totally asynchronous, meaning you're not getting all together online. Then we have synchronous classes. That means that you're all virtual, you are all live, you are on a date and time, and you're expected to be there and your camera is on. And there are a few hybrid classes out there, but they're far and few between. But hybrid just means that you might be in class one week and online the next week. So, but we don't have many of those. So I hope that explained it.
Perfect. This next question has to do with the enrollment appointments. How are enrollment appointments assigned when it comes to being able to register first?
Oh, well, if you're closer to graduation, you get to register sooner. If you're far away from graduation, you register last. I mean, if you're far away from graduation, you register last. Is generally how it works.
It looks like those are all our questions, and I even got to some of the ones that I had that are very common, and I don't see any new ones come in.
Well, thank you, Norma. Thank you for making this webinar happen. Thank you to all of our new incoming students for joining us. Again, we're going to send you the deck. We're going to send you a link to the video. You're going to be able to have access to a webinar, lots of opportunities to make sure that when you're ready and that appointment pops up for you, that you're going to be ready to sign up for your classes and be ready to start on the 17th of January. Don't forget, we will have a local student orientation on the Thursday before. I think that's at 6 p.m., Norma. That's on the 12th,
January 12th. Thursday, January 12th.
At 6 p.m. It's a virtual orientation, so you won't need to come to the campus.
And you will get invites to that around early November.
Yeah, and so you'll want to come to that. You'll be able to see a lot of faces and names and hear a lot of policies and overviews that will save you a lot of agony. But in the meantime, we're so thrilled that you chose us. UT Dallas is a great school. Our students love the experience that they have here. We are very much a global, diverse campus with students from all over the world and people from all kinds of industries. You're going to have a great experience here. So get signed up for those webinars, reach out to those program directors, do your homework, read your email, but reach out to us if you have questions. Norma will again put the slide up that has the email addresses on it. I want to thank Corina. I want to thank Angela. Norma, thank you. And if we can do anything to help you guys, please be in touch. In the meantime, the next thing you want to do is what you see on the screen. Sign up for one of those webinars or send an email and get ready, gear up. The semester's going to start fast. Thank you so much for being with us. We hope you'll be in touch.